Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, the Deputy Premier and the Minister of Children's Services accused both the media and the opposition of spreading misinformation about children that are still living in the home where Serenity suffered unspeakable abuse. Apparently, there was so much, quote, information that the minister needed to call a press conference wherein she informed the media that their facts were wrong, but then she refused to provide correct facts to the Minister of Children's Services. Since she failed to point out yesterday where the media and opposition were wrong, perhaps she'd like to clear that up now.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, certainly there's a lot of emotion around the story. My heart continues to go out to the family of Serenity for the tragic loss that they endured. And certainly, Mr. Speaker, however, there is information that is quite dated that has been circulated and being utilized in this House and throughout the media. And while again, in the interest of protecting the youth who might be involved in this particular situation, I was unable to share particular details. I thought the media and the opposition would be interested in knowing that they should not be spreading.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
It just keeps getting worse, Mr. Speaker. If the minister is going to accuse me, my colleagues, and the men and women of the press gallery of lying to Albertans about something as serious as vulnerable children in need of intervention, then she ought to be prepared to set the record straight. Minister, we're all ears. Strike one was yesterday. Strike two was the first question. Before you have strike three, what were we incorrect about? Please correct the record.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, because I respect my colleagues in this House, I certainly would never have used the word lying at all, Mr. Speaker. In fact, what I said is that they should be careful in terms of the sources of information and be cautious about sharing information that they've not confirmed, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, again, you know, it's important to protect the young people involved in a very complex situation, and sharing their personal details, in fact, could have quite unintended consequences for their lives. And Mr. Speaker, I will not apologize for protecting young people in this province. That's what my job was given to me by the Premier, and I will continue to do so.
I believe we're at second supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, the minister is putting children in danger because she will not use the authority she has to get them out of danger, and that is unacceptable. Now, Mr. Speaker, the only thing the minister did say yesterday, the number of the kids was not 6. She didn't say if it was 2. She didn't say if it was 12. Just not 6. And apparently, that was her reason for calling a media conference. To the minister, your credibility is now at stake. Can you please point to the specific Alberta privacy laws that you are hiding behind in order to not talk? What are you hiding for? What are you hiding? What are you not telling the public about? Because what you're telling sure isn't the story that Albertans deserve to hear, and it's not the truth.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I have been very clear about what information I'm able to share at this point in time. And Mr. Speaker, once again, the Child Youth Family Enhancement Act, the whole entire intention and purpose behind that act is to protect Alberta's vulnerable children. Mr. Speaker, I take the protection of those children very seriously, and as much as it would be easy for me to be able to answer the questions in terms of that, you know who would pay for that, Mr. Speaker? Not the members of this legislature, but those vulnerable youth for whom the sharing of that very protected information would put them at risk. For Mr. Speaker, I will continue to protect the children because that is my job, and I take it very seriously.